I'm going to show you how to make this flower. So from your home page, you're going to click on Create New Design. Remember, the very first thing to do when you create a new design is give it a name. So click up here. I'm going to call this Flower Fancy Fun Leslie. That way my name is in it, but you can tell what it is from the very first word. And then there's a couple of adjectives in there to help me find this file so that it has an original file name. Okay, so now we're going to come and get the basic pieces that we need for our flower, and then we will assemble them. So the first thing we need is a cylinder. This is going to be the center of the flower. And we're going to make our cylinder 17.89 millimeters, 17.89 millimeters by 17.89 millimeters. Okay, next, I'd like to change the depth of this, or height. So I'm going to click, and it's the square underneath the cone that is the height of our figure. So click there. After you click on the square, click where the text is and type in 6.26, or 6 and 26 hundredths of a millimeter. Okay, so we have our centerpiece ready to go. That's the base of the flower. We also have a stem, which is going to come from the box. So let's drag a box out. We're going to turn this cube into a rectangular prism. So we are going to change this to, let's click on one of the corner white squares and change the length to 4.47, or 4 and 47 hundredths millimeters. Hit enter. And then the width is going to be 23.26 millimeters. Hit enter. Okay. So our depth, we also always have that third dimension. We are in a three-dimensional design. So I need to change my height here, or depth. So I'm going to click on the square that's underneath the cone. Click there and then type 7. I want 7 millimeters, just over half a centimeter. I'm going to click outside of that piece. Okay, so we have our stem, we have our base. So the next thing we need are our petals. So we're going to use a half of a sphere, which under the basic shapes, if you scroll down a little past halfway, you'll see this pink half sphere shape. So I'm going to drag it over and change it to the shape that I want it to become, or the dimensions. It's going to stay this shape. So I'm going to make what's called a similar figure, the same shape, but a different size. So I'm going to click on the side squares, one of them, and change the dimensions to 17.89 millimeters for both dimensions. So it will stay a perfect circle base. All right. Now, as far as the depth or height is concerned, I click, and remember there's that top square that's right under the cone, and that's your height. Click on that square and then click on the height, and let's type in 8.95 millimeters. All right, and the last thing we're going to need is a leaf. So I actually used a cylinder for the leaf. So let's come back up to our cylinder tool, drag it over. And this is going to become oblong. So we're not going to have the same dimensions for length and width for this particular cylinder. So click on one of the squares on the side, and we would like one side of the circle to be 11.75 milliliters, or millimeters, and the other one to be 6.65, or 6 and 65 hundredths millimeters. Okay, so our height is going to be 7 millimeters, so click on this white square at the top, come down and click on the measurement and type in 7 and hit enter. All right, so now all we have left to do is some copying and pasting and then grouping things together. Can you see how this is starting to come together? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is move my cylinder base and my petal so that they just connect like that. I'm always kind of keeping an eye as to whether I accidentally drag something beneath my work plane, because I do that sometimes, and I have not done that, so I'm happy. Okay, now what I'm going to do is put the petals on. So we have one petal right now. That's what this half sphere is, and we're going to need more than one. So I'm going to click on this petal. I'm going to hold down Control and press C, and then let go of Control. Then I'm going to hold down Control, press V over and over again while I'm holding down Control, and that'll give me copies of this petal. Then after I'm done pressing V, just press maybe 6 of them. I'm going to let go of the V, and then I'll let go of the Control button. I'm going to click off of the petals and start dragging them to arrange them. And you have some freedom in how you might want to do this. How far out you want your petals to protrude versus in is up to you. So I'm dragging my petals around a little bit. If you accidentally drag something too long like I did, hold down Control while you press Z on your keyboard. Control Z is undo, and that gets everything back to where it was. And you can hit Control Z over and over again if you'd like. Which is nice because then we don't have to worry about making mistakes. If only we could hit Control Z for other things. Okay. So I almost have all of my petals. And I'm pretty happy with the number of petals, which I did 6, copied 6. So I'm just going to look at this from different perspectives and maybe clean it up a little bit, see how it looks when I click off of it. I feel like this petal needs to come out a little bit, or the others need to go in. So I'm just going to play a little bit. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Again, I'm going to twist to the side and make sure everything is flat on the work plane. That's really important. It helps your prints to print if one big side is flat on the work plane. The less you have touching the work plane, the harder it is to get a good print. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this little leaf over, but I don't want it to stick out exactly like that. That would look kind of funny. I mean, you could, it's certainly up to you, but I think I'd rather have it at a little bit of an angle. So first I'm going to take the leaf and push it into my stem so that they're overlapping as you see here. Next, I'm going to click on the leaf, and remember when you click on any figure, you'll see there are 3 arrows that have arcs to them, and this is how you rotate your figures. So I would like my figure to rotate up. So I'm going to try to, and sometimes it's hard to tell which one you're grabbing. So changing the perspective with your finger or with dragging up here on the top left can help you. So I'm going to take this and drag it just a little bit. Actually, I think I'm going to type. I don't really like dragging those so much. I'm going to try 10 degrees and see what happens. Okay, so that twisted a little bit. I think I'd like a little more. So I'm going to click and hit 20 degrees. There we go. I'm much happier. So I twisted that at 20 degrees. Again, what I did was I clicked on it. I'm using this double-headed arrow that has a little curve to it. I'm clicking on it, and where it says 20 degrees, I'm typing in how many degrees I'd like it to move. And you use positives and negatives. So if I want it to move backwards, I can type in negative 20 degrees, and it moves back to where it was at 10 degrees. So actually we went 30 degrees from the original position. Okay, if I want it to go backwards even more, I could type in negative, let's say negative 40 degrees, and it would twist the other way. So you're going to use positives and negatives to help you figure out which way you want to go. So I'm going to put in 90 degrees and see how much. Ooh, that's way too much. So now, there we go. All right, so the very last thing we need to do after looking and making sure that this is all on the same plane, the work plane, and that everything is overlapping so it will print really well. The last thing I'm going to do, I think I might push this up a little bit. No, can't change my mind. The last thing we're going to do is group it. So highlight everything, and the group button becomes available for you. It lights up, or you can see it. It's not grayed out anymore once you have more than one of your items highlighted. So I'm going to click on group. Then I'm going to click off my figure, and I see what it's going to look like when it prints.